Hi, everyone. Sorry, I was trying to make myself look more presentable, but it's not working. So I had to give up at a certain point. It's like, oh, well, I guess this is it. Welcome to Where Are All the Women? I'm Megan Murphy, and this is Mary Lou Singleton.
Hi, everybody.
I was just telling Mary Lou that I felt like I needed a new skin suit for my face. Maybe a new wig.
New wig.
Some feminization surgery so that I'm more connected to my gender identity.
Mm-hmm. Right, which you have. It's your internal sense of your gender.
I feel a lot more attractive on the inside today. So just on my exterior to reflect that.
We really need to figure out what kind of filters Brianna Wu is using because he's got the filters.
Yeah, and his plastic surgeon. Mm-hmm. Who is that? Not to say that I think that he looks attractive in any way, but he does seem to have done quite a bit of work on himself of late. But maybe it might. I think a lot of that work is filter work.
I think it is. I think he keeps getting like the filters are getting more Tim Burton-ish as he ages.
Yeah. How old is he? Do you know?
We could look it up. I think he's in his 50s.
I want to know. Age of Brianna Wu. 48.
48.
Anyway, how is everyone doing? If you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. I'm assuming that because you're watching, you like us.
Yes.
Or you like watching, or you like watching and hating us. So
I hate watching.
Yeah, either way, like and subscribe. Mm-hmm. How are you doing, Mary Lou? How are you feeling about your gender identity? Do you feel like your insides are matching your outsides? Do you need a new skin suit?
Yeah, I was thinking about a skin suit, but then I thought that's perverted and creepy. I don't want that. Yeah. It's
even things like, I feel like even things like Botox and fillers or all of that stuff. I don't think it helps people age. Maybe like a little facelift might be okay. I would be okay with a little facelift if I could ever afford that, maybe. But even that I would be worried about.
I've just seen it go wrong, I think that it's like you shouldn't get surgery unless you're going to die if you don't get surgery, right? Like that's or your life only get it if your life will be physiologically greatly improved by it. I've seen quite a few women have post-op complications from facelifts. I don't think it's worth the risk.
That's true. I know surgeries are so risky and people act like it's nothing. Like
no big deal.
Like the way that like celebrities and the Kardashians just are constantly getting like brand new faces and bodies. It's just crazy because like it's still quite serious and there's always a danger involved. And yeah, I mean, I think I talk about things like that often, but if it came down to it, I don't think I would actually go through with it.
No, I'm just afraid of surrendering to a doctor because doctors are just human beings who could really mess you up, They're not going to let somebody knock me unconscious and rearrange my face.
Yeah. The problem is that sorry, go ahead.
If I were in a terrible accident and needed plastic surgery, I would be grateful for the help, but not elective.
Yeah. For me, the problem is that I don't want to get any older. I've decided this is it for me.
Really?
Yeah, I feel like I like the way that I look now. I feel attractive. I feel happy. And I'm worried that I've peaked and it's all downhill from here. So I've decided that this is it for me and I don't want to go any further.
Okay.
In the aging process.
Yeah. I mean, what they say about aging is it beats dying young.
That's true. Yeah. The thing about aging is that you're not dead.
Exactly.
Which is good.
Yeah. I'm just loving it. There's Ani DeFranco song where the chorus is, if you're not getting happier as you get older, you're fucking up.
Yeah. Okay. I have to believe you because I've gotten happier with every next year. Like as I age, I'm happier. I like myself more. I feel better about myself. I just feel in general more comfortable.
Totally.
So I was like, I wonder if there's a a point at which that stops happening and you're like, I'm just old now. This sucks. No?
I mean, you want to keep exercising and have your body feel good, but no, I love it. And I'm loving menopause with just not giving a shit about what other people think. Like I love not having all that estrogen in a way that I just don't care about other people's feelings. And maybe like you've just never been the kind of person who felt like they needed to manage people's feelings. But like last week, I took some heavy criticism over the last week because in our show last week, I called Emily Saldea, the free birth guru who's had a stillbirth. I called her a bad baby haver, and people really came after me in the midwifery.
They did?
Mm-hmm. For people in the free birth Reddit group, the Free Birth Society scam Reddit group. I got some feedback from other midwives that was not kind to call a woman a bad baby haver.
Who cares?
I know. That's how I kind of felt. At first I felt sad and I thought, no, I'm not generalizing to all women. I'm just saying like this particular woman wasn't a good candidate for birthing unassisted. And also when you become a public figure, you open yourself up to criticism. I'm so tired of people taking umbrage at something that has nothing to do with them. My comments were directed at one particular woman who has scammed countless women out of millions of dollars and whose whole shtick was everything's a variation of normal and who flew too close to the sun and had a terrible outcome. Like it was about this particular person. I'm not saying, I didn't say anyone else was a bad baby haver.
Well, if she's bad at having babies and calling her, I don't know, but like calling her a bad baby haver is not, it just is what it is. I don't give a shit about anybody's feelings. If I say something mean about somebody, I'm just like, that's what I think.
Okay, so maybe you won't enjoy that aspect. Maybe that won't be any different for you. The other thing I like about menopause is this incredible heightening of psychic powers that like blows me away all the time. It's just, that's really cool. This really witchy psychic power that descends.
I mean, I've always really wanted to be psychic. Like whenever people ask me like, what superpower would you have if you could have any superpower? What I want is to be able to send psychic messages to my friends. So like we're in a bar and I want to say something mean, but I can't because the person is sitting right there and I want to be able to send them a psychic message, or I don't want to be sitting next to this person anymore. And me and my friends have really worked on this quite hard. Like we're like, okay, let's try. And sometimes we get it. So that would be good. I'm not gonna go through menopause though. So
you're gonna die?
Nope. I'm just not going through menopause.
All right. You can. Okay. All right. You can be forever young. There are lots of fairy tales about that.
I know. I'm making a bad deal with a witch.
All right.
I'm on bioidentical hormones, so I'm not gonna go through menopause.
All right. Sure.
Sorry, Mary Lou. You're like, okay.
That's fine. Yeah.
Anyway, speaking of skin suits.
And old ladies.
And old ladies who are dying or dead already, in fact. Who is watching who's watching us, who's also watching Monster, I think it's pronounced Ed Gein, the Ed Gein story, who is the Psycho, the Alfred Hitchcock movie was based on. I have watched, I think, the first 3 episodes, so I haven't gotten all the way through yet. I'm enjoying watching it, which is interesting because I thought, like, I can't watch scary things. Like, I will never watch like a horror movie. But I guess I don't find this show particularly scary. Definitely creepy. The guy is very, very creepy, but it's not the kind of thing that's giving me nightmares or making me feel scared. So I have been enjoying it. I think it's quite well done. There's like a lot of debate and kind of controversy online around a couple of things, one of which is just the facts of who this guy actually was in real life and how accurate this depiction is. There are obviously aspects of the show that are fictionalized. That's going to be true of any show that's a fiction, not a documentary about somebody else. And the other debate or controversy is around whether or not this guy was trans or a cross-dresser or an autogynephile. And in the show, in any case, he's depicted masturbating in his mother's underwear, clothes, etc., which advances to him making skin suits out of the skin of dead women. His house is full of body parts, preserved body parts, skulls, vulvas. And what I found most entertaining about all these debates and controversies is how hard the libs and the transes are trying to insist that this has nothing to do with transgenderism or transsexualism or anything. So whether or not those facts are all completely true, like whether or not the depiction of this guy in this show is totally accurate, whether or not he actually masturbated while wearing women's clothes, I don't know if we know that part for sure. We do know the skin suit stuff for sure. We know that he dug up graves of women and made things out of their skin and, preserved their body parts. It sounds like I was reading an academic article about him, Ed Gein and Psycho and this kind of thing. And there was an interview, there's a quote from an interview that Gein had done with the police. And the police had theorized that Gein had dressed in body parts, women's body parts, and was sexually aroused during his cross-dressing. So again, I don't know, all this insistence that he didn't do these things. He didn't do these things. He didn't do these things. This has nothing to do with trans. I think is kind of BS, but I'm not totally positive yet. But so the police say, do you have any recollection, Eddie, of taking any of those female parts, the vagina specifically, and holding it over your penis to cover the penis? And he responds and says, I believe that's true. And then the police says, you recall doing that with the vaginas of the bodies of other women? And he says, I believe I do remember. That's right. And the police say, would you ever put on a pair of women's panties over your body and then put some of those vaginas over your penis? And Ed responds and says, that could be.
God.
So, like, it's just, I think the interesting and funny part is that the transes and the libs, there's like an article in the Rolling Stone, there's an article in Autostraddle, that there's an article in that Them and like Pink News, and they're all just insisting that this has nothing to do with trans. It's just that protest too much, but it's like, but it's like, of course it does, because there's no such thing as trans, first of all, and most of the adult men who start identifying as women are perverted creeps who like to masturbate to themselves wearing women's clothing.
Right. And they say that. And so many of them say they knew they were trans because they were turned on by wearing their mother's underwear as kids or as teenagers. And Bruce Jenner stole his stepdaughter's underwear, his teenage stepdaughter's underwear, and masturbated in it. Like, these guys I'm so tired of perverts. And I'm so tired of the pervert defense brigade.
I mean, I hate to break it to you, but all men are perverts to some degree.
Yeah, but
this is an extreme perversion.
On your perversion,
I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I do think the most men are pretty perverted. But these guys, like, this isn't like when we're talking about specific fetishes. I think it's like a different thing, like, because it's like it drives your life, like that level of obsession with a weird sexual fetish is just not healthy in any way. And I'm so tired of people pretending that or insisting that we should normalize that kind of behavior. Like, it's not healthy. And I'm not saying like, like men think about sex a lot. Women think about sex too, of course. But men, because of all their testosterone, do have like a pretty intense sexual obsession. And so
I mean,
they
most
sexualize
men,
women in a lot of ways.
do you think most men are secretly necrophiliacs?
No,
Like they would
I
like,
think
they're
that's a
just,
whole different level of.
yeah, I mean, that's what I'm talking about. It's just like these paraphilias that are so disgusting and that are being celebrated in our culture right now.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just it's like, sexologists are obsessed with normalizing fetishes too,
Okay, all
like
sexologists are perverts or pervert enablers. Can we agree with that? That's like, be it resolved. Like
I mean, I think
sexology
that's
is,
totally fair.
yeah. I mean, a lot of really gross statements come out of that field.
Well, they treat fetishes as sexual orientation for the
Mm-hmm.
most part, which, as I've observed, there's a scene with a therapist in this show in Monster who is talking to the guy who's playing playing the killer in Psycho. And the therapist says something along the lines of, if you have these like secret sexual urges or you have these sexual desires and you keep them a secret and you push them down, then they manifest in these really kind of, toxic ways, sort of implying this is why Ed Gein became this murderer / started digging up the graves of women and doing all this creepy stuff with their body parts, because he was suppressing his sexual urges, which, like arguably, like he was raised by this hyper Puritan mother who thought that sex was evil and that women were all whores, and didn't want her sons to ever engage in any way with any women. So they probably really did have really messed up sexualities and had a lot of repressed sexual desires. And maybe that's why this manifested in this weird way in part. But also, they had an alcoholic father, and the mother just sounded really awful in general, like she just didn't give them any love or affection and was obsessed with religion in an unhealthy way, and again thought that all women were evil whores and yada yada. I think that the boys were quite isolated. But I don't know. I mean, I wonder, like, I don't know, that doesn't totally make sense to me. I mean, I don't know. The idea that if you have this sexual desire and you repress it, it becomes this kind of fetish that you are obsessed with, and it becomes maybe potentially evil or toxic or destructive in some way.
No, I don't think that is true or even scientifically valid in that paradigm. I think we know that what you masturbate to becomes a stronger and stronger part of your psyche. Like that's very reinforcing to keep masturbating to the same image or the same fantasy or the same crime. I think that I'm all about sexual restraint. I think that what makes a man a good member of society and a safe person to be around is sexual restraint. And he's able to control his urges and able to redirect himself to other things and not be completely taken over by his sexual proclivities.
Yeah, I think that's true also. I mean, men have to have sexual restraint because otherwise they would be doing crimes all the time.
All the time, totally.
Like
Yeah.
sexually harassing or assaulting or masturbating in public, et cetera, et cetera.
Right. No, that's not what makes you a pervert, is having no sexual restraint, right? And having your sexual fantasies are taking over your entire life, often weird paraphilic things. But even we've all met like heterosexual perverts who just are, really into wanting to have intercourse with women and can't stop talking about it and can't stop pestering about it and like making dirty jokes everywhere they can and just always inserting their just like sexual energy into every situation. That guy's a pervert too, even though he doesn't want to make a skin suit out of women. He can't control himself. That's what makes him in my rules a perv.
Yeah, well, it's also just really juvenile. Like, it's like you're not an adult man who is taking responsibility for your own behavior and operating with restraint. I mean, we all have to operate with restraint to operate in society. Like, you can't just do whatever you want to do. Like, you can't go around punching people or
shooting people,
shooting people or masturbating to them in public and touching their bodies and things like that. So
running people over with your car, these things are not allowed. And if you have an impulse to do it, you need to suppress it. And I don't think suppressing it makes you more likely to do it later.
Yeah, you're right. It doesn't make sense. Richard Haver says, acting it out always makes it worse. This is known by everyone who has ever worked corrections ever.
Right.
Yeah, well, it's like, I mean, if you have, I don't want to say this word on YouTube, if you have urges towards abusing minors, can I say that? And then you do it, I think that then, first of all, then it's a crime because you did it. But then second of all, I think that seems to make the obsession worse and more intense and the inclination to keep doing it worse.
Right.
It seems to be
the case. Sexologists, who again end up being the cheerleaders of perverts all the time, I've seen, maybe not as a whole, if they have a professional association, I don't know if it recommends this, but I have seen many sexologists recommend that pedophiles be given access to child-sized sex dolls to keep them from offending against actual children, which is insane. Like, that's just that's just going to drive the urge, make the urge stronger, and they're going to want to actually offend against a living human child.
Yeah, I mean, and how did Ed Gein's, sexual urges or potential perversions become crimes? Like, how did he become a murderer? Because he started, I think it started with, digging up these graves, and then it turned into he's murdering women to skin them.
He had a brother?
Yeah, and in the show, he murders his brother. That I also haven't been able to confirm if that actually happened or not, but the brother died for sure. And I just am not sure if they actually literally know for sure that he killed his brother or not. But in the show, he murders his brother.
Okay.
But yeah, the brother dies. I think under mysterious circumstances. The other part, like this intense obsession with denying that Ed Gein had any interest in transsexuality and had a cross-dressing fetish, I think it doesn't fly with other books and articles that were written about him prior to the existence of transgenderism, right? People could write about these things more openly because everybody just knew that there was a fetish that was around cross-dressing, and now we have to pretend that's not a thing to protect the transes.
And it was broadly recognized that those guys were creeps by both men and women. Like polite society acknowledged that those guys were creeps. So
I just want to read the excerpt from this book though, because it's sort of like, so this is from a book called Deviant, the shocking true story of the original Psycho. I'm trying to figure out when this was written. 2005. And it says, lately, Eddie's imagination has been fired by an astounding tale unfolding in papers and news weeklies across the nation. An XGI, I think this must be a quote from something else, like a newspaper or something like that. An XGI, a good-looking young man from New York City, has traveled to Denmark and undergone an operation. They're talking about Christine Jorgensen,
oh, God.
like the first trans who got all the trans surgeries or whatever, has traveled to Denmark and undergone an operation that has transformed him into a woman. Eddie is fascinated by this story. Since childhood, he has often daydreamed about becoming a girl and imagined what it would feel like to have female sex parts instead of a penis. For a very long time, of course, his concept of female sex parts was exceptionally imprecise, based entirely on a crude illustration of human reproductive organs in a medical textbook he bought in Wisconsin Rapids. Recently, however, he has been able to study the private parts of several women firsthand. The expression on his face is a perfect mixture of lewdness and contentment as he thinks of these wonderfully intimate and exciting experiences. I'm trying to figure out where I can't see the entire book, so I can't figure out where that came from. But I mean, yeah, it does seem like he had an interest in wearing a female skin suit, and that, this was a part of a sexual perversion. So
the trans community is desperately trying to separate, to not be associated with this guy. And they don't want anyone saying he has anything to do with being transgender. But you and I both know, if this were contemporary sex perp who was found doing this stuff, who said he was a woman, those same people would advocate for him being put in a women's prison.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, I think he would be allowed to go into a female prison if he was identifying in that way.
Because he's oppressed and he'd be a danger with the men, and he's a protected class of people. They would be happy to defend him if he were living in contemporary times, as they do all of these gross guys who are decapitating women, who are raping women, who are raping babies, and then get put in women's prisons and are like the most oppressed female prisoners ever in the minds of the trans activists.
It's interesting how angry trans activists are famously impossible to please, but they are, right? Like there's no amount of caring to them that satisfies them, right? And even, like the guys who made the show even tried to ensure that, this guy wasn't conflated with the transes. I was reading an article at Pink News, and the show's co-creator said it was really important for us to make that distinction, for us to say, look, these are two very different things. And they inserted this scene. I didn't get to this scene yet. I don't know which episode it's in, but a later episode, I guess. They inserted this scene where Ed Gein has this conversation that didn't really happen in real life. This conversation with Christine Jorgensen, and Jorgensen says to Gein, "I don't think you and I are alike at all," and then says, "The transsexual is rarely the perpetrator of violence, Mr. Gein. We are far more likely to be the victims of violence." The show's creator inserted that into the show to make sure everybody knows that the trans are the victims, not the murderers. And it's like, you don't get this at all. And stop trying to cater to these psychos also.
Right, exactly. Did they actually meet, or is this just completely fictionalized?
No, they made that up and put it into the show.
Yeah.
To help the transes, to protect the transes, and probably protect themselves from being targeted by the transes.
Yeah.
But that's, I think
you're right. They're protesting too much. That guy who jerks off in women's underwear and wants to wear a skin suit is nothing like contemporary guys who jerk off in women's underwear and want to wear a skin suit.
It's a completely different thing.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that's clear.
That's clear.
I mean, but yeah. I think we've talked about this a number of times, and maybe last week also. But I think the transes are on the way out. I think transgenderism is sort of over. I don't think transhumanism is over, but I do think that transgenderism is over. The ideology of transgenderism, and they're still trying to have the same power and conversations that they had in 2015, but I don't think anybody cares.
I think it's mostly over. I know for me, I'm less and less upset about it because my worries and concerns and outrage have shifted to Islam.
So, dude, Canada's done.
Yeah, and Europe, all of Western Europe and England. Maybe the Irish will keep them out. Maybe
No,
maybe
they
the Irish.
won't. They seem like they've gone woke. Don't you think? Doesn't it seem like the Irish have gone woke?
Oh, the Irish have definitely gone woke, and it's really bad there. But I do think like the Irish masses, maybe there's something that'll rise up because the population, the demographic shift is not quite as severe in Ireland as it is in England.
I just keep looking at this video footage of these rallies that are happening constantly across Canada, and they're so scary. You know, they're all these like anti-Semitic. I mean, they're framed as free Palestine protests, but I think they're really just pro-Islam rallies. Like, yeah, there was one, and you know, the good news was actually that the mayor of Vancouver condemned this recently. I was glad to see that. The Vancouverites, this guy is pretty milquetoast. His name is Ken Sim, but he's not an uber lefty, so at least there's that. But he posted a video of this loser misogynist fucking desperately washed up, like used to be this hipster and is now this he actually is a Vancouver city councillor. His name's Sean Orr, but he's desperately pro-trans, and he's like libeled and trashed me publicly as best he can with his little dinky lefty Vancouver platform because I'm, you know, a transphobe. He's done that for years, and he was very pro-mask and pro-COVID authoritarianism and all this shit. So of course he's a Vancouver city councillor, and all the like hipster woke lefties love him. But he spoke at this rally in Vancouver recently, organized by I don't know how to say this, Semidoun. It's like a designated terrorist organization.
Oh God.
And it was this, you know, anti-Israel, pro-Hamas rally, and yeah, literally like, yeah, a terrorist organization. And the mayor of Vancouver tweeted, "I'm incredibly disappointed to see Councillor Sean Orr participating at a Samidoun, sorry if I'm butchering that word, affiliated rally in Vancouver." Samidoun, is somebody tell me how to say this word, is a terrorist organization. Anti-Semitism has no place in Vancouver. Celebrating Hamas has no place in Vancouver. I call on all local elected officials to condemn this behavior. So at least there's that. But, you know, like it's too late for Canada because the immigration is so out of control. They've imported so many immigrants. And just like the past few years, the population has exploded because of immigration. And for the most part, they're from Islamic countries. They're Muslims.
That's really terrifying.
Like I don't know what progressives are thinking. It's like you're supporting Sharia law. Like, do you not understand what these cultures want and believe?
No, they don't, and they have no sense of history, and they don't understand what happened in Iran when the left aligned with the Islamists, and look what it led to, and the people there have not been able to shake it off, you know, for decades. Like the majority of Iranians don't like what's happening there, and they live in this terror state, being completely controlled by radically Islamic men. I just can't believe anybody defends this religion. It's the worst of all the Abrahamic faiths in terms of its treatment of women, its treatment of non-believers. You're not allowed to have a dog. Like it's just so crazy. No music, no alcohol, no mixed gatherings between men and women, no dancing. Why are leftists so enamored with this particular religion?
I think that they're actually ignorant to what it is.
Really?
I think that they just are pro brown people because they think that makes them look progressive. I think most of it is just about virtue. Yeah, because like I've talked to Libby friends and been like, Islam is bad, and they've said, no, I disagree with that. I'm like, no, it's bad. Sharia law is bad. This
It's
is
very
a
bad.
misogynist religion that supports raping girls and child marriage and women not having rights and hates gays and it's bad. It's bad. I think it's fair to say it's bad. But they don't like democracy. It's
No.
bad. And they don't know. They're like, no, that's not true. And I'm like, no, that is true. Like, what do you think Islam is? Like, because they think I'm talking about Muslim people, right? Like, they're not getting that I'm talking about the culture and the religion. I mean, I'm talking about the people too, because if you're part of this culture and you're invested in this culture and this religion and destroying Western culture and Western civilization in general, because you want a Muslim majority and you want to impose Sharia law, like you're also a danger. And yeah, no, I think they don't know. I think that a lot of this is just rooted in ignorance and what they read online from other wokes, I guess.
But how can they look at the Islamic countries of the world and think that this is a good philosophy, a good religion? I don't think they would be happy living in Afghanistan or Saudi Arabia or Iran and then look at Lebanon, which was a majority Christian country not that long ago, like during the Reagan administration, and the Christians and the Jews have all been driven out. Look at the Islamists massacring Christians in Nigeria and Syria and massacring Kurds and Yazidis. Like this,
They
it's
don't know
really
that's happening, though.
really.
No.
They don't. I mean, back when ISIS was a thing, we still had kind of a unified news reality in the United States. They must have heard about that when it was happening not that long ago. They've just
I don't
forgotten.
know. Maybe they've erased it from their brains if they did here. I mean, you have to think about, they really live in a bubble, right? I think they read their algorithms.
Yeah.
And if they see news that they don't like, I think they just shut it out. Like they choose their own realities. And I think that the realities that they choose are based on what they think will make them look good. Like I think like a lot of this is really based on ego and narcissism.
I think it's that. I think a lot of it is white guilt. I think a lot of it is being brainwashed to believe that Western civilization is the worst force that has ever risen in humanity, which I was brainwashed to believe for quite some time. Now I'm into it. I think we're never going to have anything perfect, but I prefer Western civilization to living under the Islamic Caliphate, hands down. I think they don't know history. They don't even know the history they don't remember ISIS, which is not that long ago. They don't remember what happened in Iran, which is also not that long ago. And they certainly don't remember that this is a 1,200-year-old war. This is a continuation of a 1,200-year war.
Yeah. Yeah. I think maybe also that they separate, like they separate the people who are immigrating from the religion and the culture and all that history. Like I don't know, maybe like they don't realize that these guys like want to replace Western culture and Western civilization with Islam.
But they say that the Islamists say that's what they want to do.
Yeah,
Over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And Iran, that has a lot of money, like they want to destroy the West. Qatar wants to destroy the West. Like these are moneyed forces that Qatar gives so much money to US universities as part of, to control what people are being taught here.
Yeah, I want to play this clip actually that I just saw on X that was posted by Tommy Robinson, because it's pretty creepy, but the guy really like spells it out. Hang on, Let me share the screen. Everyone, just give me a minute. We all know this always takes me a little while to figure out. Okay.
Gay couple in Palestine, sir.
What?
What would happen to a gay couple in Gaza?
Executed according to Islamic law. Islam doesn't endorse gayism. Islam doesn't endorse homosexuality.
And do you think that's good?
If I were to,
Do you think that's good, sir? Do you think it's good for gays?
I would get executed, right? I would get prosecuted. In the same way, Islam doesn't approve of being gay.
I see. Okay, so would you like to see Sharia law in Canada replace Canadian law?
At some point, it will. You know, because we have families, we are making babies. You're not. Your population is going down the slum, right? And by 2060, according to Pew Research Institute, your research, by 2060, Muslims will be the biggest religious group the world over. What are you going to do then?
Actually,
are you going to oppose Sharia even then?
Well, you know what? I'm very appreciative of the honesty. We don't usually get that. So you do support Sharia. You do want a Muslim majority nation in the West End, correct?
Just like you had a Western majority nation in the land of Native Americans, one day we can have a Muslim majority nation here in Canada. Right in your face.
Yeah.
I think that leftists kind of pick and choose their own realities.
I think so too. Look at the rallies going on yesterday on the anniversary of the slaughter in Israel at the hands of radical Islamists, and people were out rallying, pro-Hamas rallies on that day. You know, they're upfront about it. They celebrate what happened that day.
Yeah, because that day to them, they're freeing Palestine, right, from this evil, tiny little country, very, very far away that they're very, very obsessed with, in a culty way. Loopy X-Mam in the comments says, in the live chat, I'm sorry, says, I don't think it's about the religion. It's about supporting people who've been harmed by countries, including U.S. and Israel. So that's I think what leftists believe, right? They think they're supporting people harmed by the U.S. and Israel. They don't think that they're supporting Islamists and terrorists, but they are.
Yeah, and maybe it was, a terrible idea to fight all those wars in the Middle East. Was George Bush's saying, we're going to fight them there so we don't have to fight them here. That was the justification for the Afghan and Iraq wars. We're going to go fight radical Islam in the Middle East so we don't have to fight them here. I think it backfired. Yeah. And again, this is not new. This is the continuation of a 1,200-year-old war between Islam and the West. People need to remember that. They need to learn their history, that this is an old war. People need to read about the Crusades. They need to read about the Reconquista of Spain and the fall of Constantinople. Like this is an old problem. It's not like something that just popped off right now because the U.S. invaded Afghanistan.
Yeah, but they're not reading or learning history. They're being taught like neo-colonial theory, right? They're being taught about the white people in Western countries are bad because they're colonizers. Every country that exists today and every culture that exists today is a colonizer. That's how do you think that they became a country and a culture? Like, where did they come from? How did they get there? They won a war and they took land from somebody else.
And Islam's not a colonizing force. It's a much bigger colonizing force right now in the world than the West is. Look at the number of Islamic countries. I think like the hijab is not the traditional dress of women in Malaysia. The hijab is not the traditional dress of women in Bangladesh. The burqa is not the traditional dress of women in Afghanistan. This is a totalitarian colonizing force that's taking over the world, but they can't see it because they hate the West so much.
And why did they get to colonize us? Like, they're trying to colonize us. Do they not see that that's what they're doing? Is they're trying to colonize Canada?
Yeah, exactly. They're saying that.
Like, how come we don't get anything? Why did the Muslims get to, destroy Western countries and cultures and take over? Like, they just are, I don't know. They're just not really thinking this through. And yeah, they don't know the history, I think. And
it's pretty bad. Yeah. And he, that speaker is correct about just the demographic shift of who's reproducing, who is creating the future. And that's, that's something that is uncomfortable to talk about as women, as women is support of reproductive rights and women's education. But I do think it would be great if people who care about the West, fell in love and made a bunch of babies right now and raised them to appreciate the West.
Yeah, and it is. It's a hard thing to say because you can't really go around telling women that they have to have babies for the good of the country.
Oh, sure you can. It's.
I mean, you can, but that's not. I mean,
I'm not supporting.
Like, I'm not having babies. I don't want them, so I didn't. I'm free.
Yeah.
But the biggest problem is not me. Like, because I think most women do want to have babies and want to have families. But in Canada, for example, a lot of people will say, "Oh, we can't afford to." I mean, Canada's inflation has gone insane. People can't afford to buy groceries, can't afford homes, etc. But at the same time, like I also find those complaints a little bit silly because it's sort of like, oh, like, we can't have babies until we're financially stable. And it's like, of course you can. Like, when's the right perfect time to have a baby? When you figure it out, right? Like, I'm not saying, oh, it's so easy. It's not. But like, oh, I didn't have a house. Like, we lived in a co-op. Like, my parents didn't have money. Like, I don't know. It was fine.
It's so much easier to have babies when you're already poor than it is whenever you have created a lifestyle dependent on two professional incomes. And then you're dealing with, infant daycare, which is just barbaric to both women and babies, putting a 4-week-old baby in an industrial daycare. But, paying, and if you don't want to do that, and you have to maintain those two incomes, like, buying the services of nannies, like all this stuff. It's so much easier just to have your babies when you're young and build your life from that point on. Babies don't need much.
How does Mexico manage? I mean,
exactly.
Mexicans are famously very fertile. Like, they're constantly having babies. And there's a lot of poverty in Mexico. Like, it's not stopping them from having babies. Richard Haver in the live chat says, funny enough, there seems to be, excuse me, a strong correlation between high stability and low fertility. Like, it just seems like, it's like, what do you, like, I can't have a baby until I own a house. Like, it's like, what are you talking about? Like,
totally.
Is that how countries work? Like, no, lots of poor people are famously having babies all the time. Like,
but it's true. If you have, you have a middle-class life already, the thought of having a bunch of kids really changes your lifestyle, right? Like, even if you're making, 150 grand a year in the US, but now you've got 6 kids, like, that is really different than you're a couple without kids making that much. You can't travel as much. You're tied down with responsibilities. So I do think getting used to an affluent lifestyle absolutely lowers the desire to have a lot of kids, where if you're already poor, it's just more being poor. Like, you're just still poor.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but yeah, luckily there's a resurgence in, I think, conservatism and religion and the religious right, which, feminists act so terrified of, but that's going to help with the baby making to protect you from Islamists, guys.
I know. Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, I think that there are all sorts of possible realities and all kinds of home lives, and you can't ever generalize. But I know plenty of women with more than 3 kids who are very happy and live in their power and are not oppressed. And I think it's possible to have a large family and be a healthy, empowered, happy woman if that's what you want. I don't like the idea of the state deciding to increase the population by taking away birth control and taking away women's choices. I think that although that historically is a tried and true tactic.
No, I would never support that. Ever.
Yeah. No, but I mean, whether or not we support it has nothing to do with whether or not it's actually going to happen somewhere because of the current demographic.
Has somebody threatened that?
I think it's a lot of
do that.
Well, personally, I think that the shakedown of abortion restrictions in the United States falls along that. Like you see in states that are interested in keeping the population low, like the state I live in New Mexico, where we have a low carrying capacity, we're a desert state, we're a poor state, we have few resources. It is so easy to get an abortion here. Like we just don't need a lot of people here. But a state like Texas, where there's a lot of agriculture requiring manual labor, there's a huge oil industry requiring human bodies. There are massive abortion restrictions. I think abortion restrictions are always about controlling the population. And among the ruling class, there are always people who want to decrease the population in certain populations and increase it in others. Like this is not controversial. Like this is history of forced sterilizations of certain demographics and complete lack of access to abortion and birth control, among others. An example would be the Philippines, where the leadership of the Philippines, I think it was 5 or 6 years ago, the government was discussing whether or not they were going to legalize birth control. It's a Catholic country. It's still the only country where it's illegal to get divorced. The average woman, I think, has over 8 children, or maybe it's not that much, but there are a lot of women having that. All the midwives I know have gone there, have treated many women who've had 20 babies. Women are having 20 babies on the regular there because the main export of the Philippines is people. That is what they export all over the world in terms of nurses and nannies and domestic workers in Arab countries. And the men who run that country were on record of saying, we don't want to decriminalize birth control. We don't want to legalize birth control because our main economic export is people. And when, that's what their economy is. Like, this is not theory. Like this is just human economics, that you need humans and women are the means of production of humans. And in places where you want more humans, you restrict women's reproductive choices. And in places where you want fewer humans, you expand women's reproductive choices.
Well, first of all, we're conflating birth control. I think we're conflating hormonal birth control with abortion.
No, you couldn't even get condoms there.
But I mean, if we're talking about America.
Okay, so in America,
the abortion restrictions are just all in red states. Like, it doesn't sound to me. I mean, I've never heard this before. I'm not saying it's not true. I wasn't aware that this was the case. But I mean, I don't know that the decisions around restricting abortion specifically in America has to do with specifically attempting to increase population in certain states, because it's all just a red-blue divide.
Well, no, I think that the red-blue divide arises out of those same factors that come from whether or not you need human bodies. I think that people are more likely to be liberal, progressive, if they're in places where the economy is like post-industrial, post-agrarian, and you don't need human bodies to do the work, right? So more middle class, white collar, the blue states tend to fall along that, right? And the red states tend to be more agricultural, more manual labor, and people tend to be more conservative in those places for multiple reasons, one of which being the differences between the sexes. Like, people are more conservative if they're in a place where it's really obvious that men and women are different, and there's work that is much more easily done by men than women because it's in the oil fields, or it's baling hay, or it's it's doing these really heavy physical jobs, and that most of the red states fall into that. Then you have like the purplish states that are half and half, like where I'm from in Pennsylvania. What do they say about Pennsylvania? You have Pittsburgh on one side, Philadelphia on the other, and white Mississippi in the middle, because the middle of Pennsylvania is all like what used to be steel mills, coal mines, fracking. Like it's places where it's still physical manual labor. And this is kind of how the Civil War shook out, right? Too. It was industrialization versus agrarian, and part of that was wage slaves versus chattel slaves. So controlling the population falls within the conservative liberal divide, or the Republican Democrat divide, or blue red, like however you want to describe the political split. I don't think it's separate from that.
Kate C in the live chat says, I'm in a state that put the right to abortion in the Constitution, but you still have to be able to pay for it out of pocket.
I wonder what state that is. Is that like Kansas, or who else did that recently?
If you attempt to get things like an IUD at the county health clinic, which will do one for free, and are found to be pregnant, you are refused. She says she's in Colorado.
Colorado's a historically purple state. Like Colorado, when I moved to New Mexico, so in the late 90s, Colorado actually had a referendum of the entire state where they criminalized gay marriage. Colorado is a state where there is this big divide between the city people and the ranching people and the mountain people. So it is more blue now, but it could flip. Like there are a lot of rugged individuals in Colorado who they have to pacify them more so than Washington or Oregon or California.
Yeah, Jen Say lives in Colorado, and she says it's interesting because, yeah, it's technically a blue state, but people are a lot more freedom oriented than they are in other states. You know, she left San Francisco because, I mean, San Francisco is horrible, but because it got so woke. And she's much happier in Colorado. Like she's had like a Trump sign out on her front lawn, and I think she's still got it out there. She had it throughout the whole election, and she didn't feel like she was going to be, you know, attacked or murdered over it. Which, I mean, if you did that in San Francisco, I think you'd be terrorized. Totally.
Yeah, Colorado is very different. I used to drive to Colorado during COVID just to be able to not have to wear a mask and not be around terrified, freaked out, brainwashed people. It was a much freer place. Then a place like Boulder, Colorado is just going to be liberal lefty hell. Denver is a little more mixed. But I know it looks very blue now, but I think Colorado could flip if the nonsense got too overwhelming there. I think that the liberals, the Democrats know they can't push it too far there.
PGRO says, should elective abortions be free of charge?
What does free of charge mean? Like the doctor doesn't get paid, that someone
that would be covered by insurance, presumably? Yeah. Is that what that would mean? So yeah, it's not really free of charge. I mean, in Canada, it means covered by taxpayers, but in America, it doesn't mean that, right? Like,
well, the state I live in, it's covered by taxpayers if you're on Medicaid, because the state is really, really, really pro-abortion rights. Because they want to, I think partly because of population stuff. Yeah. So no, I don't know anymore. What does free of charge means? I mean, does the government pay for it? Which means, do taxpayers pay for it? No, I'm at a place where I just feel like people should have to figure it out, you know, and pull their own weight.
I mean, yeah, I guess like in red states, I mean, restriction is still available in most red states, just not after a certain point, right?
Up to 6 weeks. So no one will do it because it's just too early to even confirm it with an ultrasound. So,
oh, really?
Yeah. Essentially, it's illegal in those states.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
So you have to go to a different state.
Yeah.
Pay.
Richard asks, who on Medicaid is young enough to get pregnant? Medicaid is different from Medicare. Medicare is the government-funded insurance that is for people who are retired or people who are on federal disability. Medicaid is for poor people of any age. The state I live in, I think 80% of children are on Medicaid, and a huge it's well over 50% of the general population is on Medicaid. So most people here can get a taxpayer-funded abortion if they need one.
Okay.
And I have mixed feelings about that, right? Like I'm just getting to the point where I'm more and more of a libertarian, and I just don't want to pay for anything with my tax dollars.
I mean, I think that what should happen, in Canada, we're like one of the only countries in the world, if not, I think actually maybe we are the only country in the world where everything is under universal health care. And there's, because most places that have universal health care also have private health care that you can access if you want to, and your insurance can cover it. But we don't have that in Canada, and it's totally silly. I mean, it doesn't have to be one or the other. It can very easily be both. You could very easily have options and then cut down wait list and wait times in emergency rooms and so on and so forth.
Is it illegal for a medical provider to set up a cash pay clinic up there?
I think you can pay cash, but you have to pay cash. Like your insurance won't cover it. You have to be able to pay.
No like supplemental, like private insurance system.
Yeah. Anyway, it's been about an hour, and I know you have to get going. I want to say that next week there's not going to be a stream because I'm going to be in London. Well, no, I'm going to be on a plane to London on Wednesday, and I'll be in London on Thursday because I am going to be on a couple of panels at the Battle of Ideas Festival, and I'm super excited about it. So if anybody is watching who is in the London area, come to my panels. There's one on, Lord, I'm going to be so tired, and I'm going to have to pre-apologize because I know my brain's not going to work because I don't think I'll have slept because of the jet lag, and it's at 10:15 a.m., which means I'm going to have to wake up at an ungodly hour of like 8 in the morning or something like that. But it's called Sex Realism and the New Book Burnings, and that one's on Saturday, October 18th at 10:15 at the Wash House Cafe. And who else is on this panel? Matilda Gosling, who is the author of Evidence-Based Parenting and Teenagers. Jenny Holland, who's a writer and the author of Saving Culture from Itself. Suzanne Moore, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with. She's a pretty well-known writer, journalist. Me, I'm Meghan Murphy. Gillian Phillip, a writer. And on Sunday, I'm really excited. I'm going to be on a panel called Will DEI Ever Die? It's at 1:45 at Assembly Hall Church House. And the speakers are Dr. Tim Crowley and our favorite Andrew Doyle. I'm just so excited to be on a panel with him and to meet him. I love him. James Esses, did I say his name right? A psychotherapist, the author of Just Therapy. And it's chaired by Ella Whelan, who probably many of you are familiar with from maybe Spiked. She's the author of What Women Want. So yeah, if any of you guys are watching from the UK, come. And yeah, no stream next week. The week after, I'm going to be in Austin, actually. So I have to figure out if I can stream from my hotel. I'm going through Austin on the way back because all the layovers, like all the flights back were awful. And so they were like 10-hour layovers in San Francisco. And I was like, well, I'll just go through Austin and hang out for a minute because I have friends there. I know lots of people there, and I actually like Austin as opposed to all of the other places. Like I was like, what am I going to do? Sit in an airport for 10 hours or pay for a hotel in San Francisco? And Graham Linehan is coincidentally going to be in Austin at the same time. So I think we're going to be doing a private event together. that, yeah, it's not going to be like tickets aren't going to be available to the public. But if you're watching and you're in Austin and you want to come and I know who you are, then send me an email and we'll see if you can get a ticket, because I think it's going to be a really fun event, like sort of a small event, food and drinks and meet and greet and chatting and casual. And so, yeah,
Nice.
I'm excited about my next week and a half, another little break from psychocellulita before the high season comes. Thanks everyone for tuning in. I'm Meghan Murphy. This is Mary Lou Singleton, and normally we're here every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, except for next week. And then I have to figure out if I can do it the week after, depending on, my situation over there. We'll see. I'll try to figure it out. It should probably be able to, I would think. And I'm on X at Meghan E. Murphy. Mary Lou is on X at ML_Singleton. Thank you, Richard Haber, for the donation. I appreciate it. If you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. I post these streams after the fact on Spotify. If you just look up Where Are All the Women on Spotify, you'll find us. Click the follow button. And on Substack, it'll be on my Substack and Mary Lou's Substack. I'm at www.meganmurphy.ca. Mary Lou's, just search for Mary Lou Singleton. And Mary Lou's website is enchantedfamilymedicine.com. Is there anything else I need to say?
No, that sounds good. Have a great time in the UK.
Thanks. Thanks, everybody. Good night. Have a good week.
Night.
Bye.